Hi, I'm Alan Brogan, and this is Passing It On with my dad, Bernard Brogan. One thing that I've often been asked about is how I got my start with Dublin, how I started to play with Dublin, and obviously I had the development squads up through under 15 and 16 on into a minor panel and stuff, and most people know the story about how Tommy Lyons moved me from a cornerback to a corner forward one day, and I got a few scores in a friendly against Clare the next day, and from that moment on I was a corner forward as opposed to a wing back, what he was looking at me originally. But your own story is interesting enough as well, and how you got your call up to the Dublin the great Dublin team of the 70s. If you want to give us a little run through it.
Yeah, I mean, in that time there were obviously no development squads because that's a fairly new initiative. But I started playing in 1973, and Dublin hadn't been in a Leinster final since 1965. They won on Ireland in 63, won a Leinster in 65, and hadn't been in a Leinster final since then. So in 1973, there wasn't a whole lot of interest to play for Dublin because there was no real momentum around in Dublin. So at the time, I think Kevin Heffernan had managed the team previously. He didn't manage it in 72. Came back in the league in 73, and he started a new thing where he asked the referees to nominate players that they saw playing in club matches around the city. So Plunk was at the time with a junior team, which was very unusual for a fellow from a junior team to get onto the senior panel. But Senan Connell's father was a referee, and he had me down on a list that he sent to the county board. And one Sunday, Kevin Heffernan and Donald Colfer came out to watch me play in Kilbarra Park, and they asked me to join the panel. And I said to them at the time, I'm doing my final engineering degree. I don't have time to play for Dublin. I'm not really interested.
Yeah, so that's actually where the Dublin team was at the time. You actually turned down the initial request to
turn down
join the panel.
And then 6 weeks later, they came and watched me again, and they went back and said, "Look, we're doing some circuit training in the gym in Finglas, and we'd love you to come out and try it." And like that was new, the whole thing about circuit training. There were no gyms around at the time even.
And so how at that stage did they even get word to you? Did they come out and watch you again 6 weeks later? Or was there?
Yeah.
So they
were
so after the match
trawling the county for people. In fact, was what it boils down to.
So they approach you after the match?
After the match, yeah. After the junior match. So I went out then and trained in the gym in Finglas, and I mean, I don't know how many fellas went through the gym, but 50 or 60 or 70 fellas came and went, and so I stuck it out and started playing then in the winter of 1973. I actually played against the combined universities in a game against Mark John O'Keefe in centre field, who was playing for the combined university at the time. And in December of 1973, twisted my knee that day, and then went on and played a bit of the league, and then played in the championship started the first game of the championship in 1974 at full forward, and the next day Jimmy Keaveney came back. I was dropped for the next game. Went to the bench, and Jimmy Keaveney came back, and he had retired, and Kevin Heffernan asked him to come back, and he came back and played the next game. And I played the following game came on as a sub against Offaly, where I twisted my knee again and had to have a big operation on my knee, so I'd only started playing a couple of months and I had a major operation.
And what changed your mind in the 6 weeks between when the initial approach to 6 weeks later, you changed your mind, you said, okay, I will join the panel?
I think it was just the whole notion of something that was just unusual, circuit training in the gym, and it was, I played basketball for Ireland, schoolboy basketball for Ireland. I did a lot of running and high jumping, and played for the school as well. So it was unusual to do circuit training. So I think it was just the notion of doing something that was new. I said I'll go out and try the circuit training. And then when I got out there, it sort of sucked me in.
I think another thing people find very interesting about us is the whole connection with Kerry, and obviously we're like kind of through Mam being from the Stole, our connection with Kerry is well documented now. But you met Mam in 1975, so that Kerry Dublin kind of rivalry would have been would have been well on its way at that stage. How was so going out with a Kerry girl while this relationship was starting to become, I'm not sure if it was ever nasty, but it was certainly very competitive. And all of a sudden you're going out with somebody from right in the heart of the football area in North Kerry, Listowel.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just interesting when I say that when I was asked to play in 1973, the October of 1973, I sort of said, no, I don't have time. And then I started to play, and obviously we won the All-Ireland in '74. And then I had finished my primary degree in 1974. And I did a master's then so I could stay in Dublin and play football. So that's how big the change was. Now, you know, because we obviously won the All-Ireland because that creates huge momentum. But at the end of 1975, no, maybe not the end of 19, maybe it must have been the summer of '75. I left college and I started working for a company called Atlantic Plant Construction, and I did that on the basis that I'd be working in Dublin. But very shortly after I started, they had a job in Tarbert in Kerry, and the engineer that was working down there for the company left. And my boss called me in and told me 6 weeks after I started, a permanent job, staying in Dublin, that I had to go to Kerry. So sometime early in the summer of 1975, I went down to Kerry and started work in Tarbert and lived in the Stole, where I became very friendly with Jimmy Deanahan. And he and I did a good bit of training together over that summer. But I think later on after the All-Ireland, you know, we were beaten in the All-Ireland in '75, and I actually went back to work on the Monday morning after the All-Ireland. So I'd get in, you know, I wouldn't be delayed going down. So if they wanted to abuse me, that the abuse was very quick. Yeah,
back to Kerry won in '75.
Monday of '75. And then in the winter of '75, we went to a carnival in Fenugreek, which is a little town outside Listowel, and Jimmy Deanahan introduced me to Maria. So that's how I met.
And was there, when you were working, when you went down to work in Tarbert, was there a bit of slagging?
Not really, no, because it was sort of Dublin had come out and up. Kerry had won in '75, I remember. So it was sort of, you know, we were big dogs at the time. We were red hot favourites that year, and it was a very young Kerry team. There was obviously some slagging, but it wasn't. As I say, I went down on the Monday morning, so I get it all in quick, so I wouldn't be afraid of it later in the week.
Try to get it all out of the way in the Monday, so it wouldn't drag on for a week.
Yeah.
I know, because you say, I suppose that like the bond with Kerry is obviously very strong through, man. You got married in 1979, and you finished your Dublin career in '82 or '83, the year after I was born. And it was probably a few years there where you committed yourself to the club and stuff, and then Jimmy got involved. My uncle, your brother Jimmy, got involved in the management team with Paddy Cullen in '91. He was a selector, and Paddy left in 1991, I think, didn't he? And then Pat O'Neill took over the team. So you were involved. Not a lot of people would know, but you were involved in you had a small role to play in kind of that team as well, and in the All-Ireland win of 1995 as well. We would have been, myself and Bernard and maybe James, Jimmy's son as well, would have been quite close to the act, would have been at some of the training sessions in the dressing room after 1995. But you had a what would be described now as analysis role. You had a part to play in that All-Ireland too.
Well, I mean, when you describe it as analysis, our stuff was, in some ways, was a long way from analysis, because it was basically people's opinion. So Bobby Doyle and I we were the eye in the sky in the top of the Hogan stand. And prior to 1995, we actually had walkie-talkies. So we used to, let's say, regularly converse with the guys down below. But after the '94 championship, you know, I was saying to Jimmy, I'm not sure that was the best thing to do, because one is we weren't involved in the let's say the team tactics, so we could actually misinterpret stuff up on the stand and make comments and so on that might be a bit misleading. So the following year, Bobby actually went down and became a selector, and I stayed up on the stand. But the following year, I actually went down at half time with notes and so on. I met Jimmy outside the dressing room and said, "Look at here's what I think." So yeah, I was involved, you know, through discussion with Jimmy, but not involved in the team per se.
Yeah. That's funny. I remember going down at half time in those matches when you would be having a chat with Jimmy outside the old Hogan Stand dressing room down at the corner, down at the corner of the canal end, the Hogan and the canal end. So I suppose that, like, for us growing up, obviously we had that exposure with people talking about you playing, Jimmy being involved in 1995, and in a way, people often ask me and probably ask Bernard the question: did the pressure of say you playing, did that weigh on us at all? And I actually think now, when I think about it, it's probably the opposite, because we were maybe exposed to it so much through people talking about you, maybe through little things like that with Jimmy. And I would have went to lots of club matches with Jimmy, Leinster club matches. Aaron Sawyer were winning a lot of Dublin club championships at that stage, remember Kim McCull. So we would have went to a lot of matches with Jimmy where we were obviously going to watch the match, but he was going there in his role as a Dublin selector to see how lads were going, or to see was there any players they should be looking at for the following year. So I think being exposed to that sort of stuff probably helped me in feeling that when I got onto a Dublin, obviously the development squads help as well. When you go on to the senior Dublin panel, you're kind of, I suppose, you're never used to it, or you're never fully ready for it. But all that exposure probably helped us in dealing with that pressure, and that it felt normal for us to be there. Whereas I think some guys can come into county panels and maybe when they're not used to it, can be a little bit overwhelmed by it. So I don't think I think Bernard would agree, we never really felt that pressure on our shoulders. And if anything, it probably helped us that you've been involved, because we've been exposed to it. But from your side of things, I know you're probably quite conscious not to put pressure on us, or not to make us feel that burden on our shoulders. Was it something that you thought about much, or that you were conscious of?
I mean, it was great in the sense that she got the opportunity to play, but once you went on the field, like it was out of her hands. So in some ways, it was just, I'd watch the match really, and I'd be watching yourselves play, I'd be more interested in what you were doing than the team, and whether you were making mistakes or not, and why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that. I mean, you know, when you look at the game today, it's all about like 15-man football, and the way your game, like Bernard's game in particular, was very much a poaching game where if I was managing the team, I'd have him playing in the box all the time, but the way the team was playing, they were bringing them out. So it was things like that got to me more than the pressure, because once you went out and you played, like if you remember, you know, like I think it was 2003, you won the under-21 All-Ireland, but you didn't play in an All-Ireland final until 2011. Whereas the year I played, I was involved in an All-Ireland final. The first year I played, I was 21. And it was the first year I played football, I was involved in Ireland. So it was just different. The pressures were different. But he had other successes as well, Leinster finals, and there were big crowds, and you know. So I know the big crowds didn't matter after the first few years of winning Leinsters and not getting to the All Ireland. Yeah. I never really felt the pressure, because I didn't get, you know, I never really, just disappointment maybe.
Yeah, and I suppose when you looked, like obviously I know you never kind of criticize too much, or if we asked you for an opinion, to give us the opinion. But like I always thought, you were very conscious of not trying not to weigh in too much, especially after losses and stuff like that. But when you watched us play, did you watch us as were you specifically watching more of what we were doing, or would you watch it as part of the team?
No, I watch it more as what you were doing, and in the sense what I thought you should be doing is what you should be doing as part of the team. And I know the whole game today is a 15-man game, and everybody has to slot into what they're doing. Whereas when we played, it was more individual football, you know, in the sense that the fullback got the ball and he kicked it out to the middle of the park, and it was the midfielder's job to get the ball. And if they didn't get the ball, it wasn't the fullback's fault, it was the midfielder's fault. Whereas today, the way the game is played, you know, the fella distributing the ball takes as much responsibility as the fella getting the ball.
Yeah.
So you know, and in that sense, I would have looked at you and I'd be very conscious of it. But I know that the instructions to the team would be different than the way I thought you should have been playing.
Yeah.
So I had to keep me counsel to myself, you know.
I know sometimes you did, yeah. Which you didn't want to. I suppose just to finish on a bit of positivity, we both have lots of great memories from the 70s, and myself from the noughties and the 3 All-Ireland wins then from 2011 on. I suppose I'm often asked the question, what are the most memorable moments for me? And it's like it's hard to look past 2011 because we'd waited so long to win that All Ireland. In the way that it happened, 4 points down with a few minutes left, Kev Mack getting a goal and us winning by a point, just the drama of the whole thing. So it's hard to look past 2011, but like I suppose for me, it was probably very much about the journey. And I'd always say, like, I really enjoyed playing under Tommy Lyons and Pillar as well, and kind of winning those Leinsters. And there was some huge matches there in Croke Park against Tyrone, even some huge Leinster Championship matches, which I really would have enjoyed. But for yourself, what were the most memorable occasions for you as I suppose, first off as a player, and then after that as a father watching us play?
Well, in a sense, that the two as a player was the game in '74 against Offaly. I came off. Actually, I didn't come off injured, but it was only 3 subs, and I came on as a sub, and I played very well. I mean, you know, I made a big difference in the game. I twisted my knee, but I couldn't come off, so I went into the corner forward, and I pretty much came off and had a huge operation after that. So that was a huge day for us because Offaly were All Ireland champions. For us,
yeah, that's true.
Huge momentum in the team that day. And
where was that game played?
Played Croke Park.
Croke Park.
Yeah. And the other occasion then was beating Kerry in the semi-final. But we beat Kerry in the semi-final. I got a goal that day.
In 77.
Yeah. They were the two sort of big occasions. I also scored a goal against Offaly in '79, the Leinster final, in the last kick of the game. They were winning by a point, and we won that game. But they were the big games for me, and for you, for memories for me, really, for yourself was being captain of the 21 team in 2013. Where
2003.
2003, which, like, you know, in a way, looking at that, we would have thought that we would have got to an All Ireland final, you know, long before 2011. So there was great expectation born out of that championship win. And it was a long road after it, you know, nearly 8 years.
That was the first time Dublin had ever won a 21 All Ireland, which is
so it was a big event. And then you got a goal, I think, in the league final or the league match in 2011. Your granddad died on the 1st of April 2011, and we were in Croke Park the following Sunday, and they had a picture of him up on the big screen, and you scored a goal where Paul and Bernard and yourself were involved in the move, and after you scored the goal, you ran out from the goal and put your finger up in the air. Now, I don't know what you were talking to your granddad, but that's what.
Yeah, I'd say granddad was involved in that goal somewhere as well. I remember it came across. Bernard gave a speculative enough ball across the square, and the keeper actually dropped it straight in front of me. So, I just poked it into the net. But yeah, and I suppose that's something like we all talk about the GA, and everyone has different opinions and stuff. But I remember that week after granddad died, I think yourself or Jimmy rang Croke Park and asked could the family get in to watch that game on the Saturday, and they gave the family a box in Croke Park. I'm not sure who he spoke to, whether it was Peter McKenna or whoever it was, but I think that's something the family will always be grateful for. And like, there's not too many league matches at the start of April that people do remember, but I think we'll all remember that one for a long time.
Yeah. And the other thing then is you know, we have a photograph in the hall with yourself, Paul and Bernard are in the photograph after 2011. The 3 years are wearing their jerseys in the photograph of Croke Park. That was a big occasion as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard to look past the emotion and the relief of winning that All Ireland in 2011. As you said, after winning a 21 in 2003, we thought we'd be winning these finals every year. It took us a long time to get there, and I suppose that was probably the start of the dominance of the current Dublin team. Even though we won 7 or 8 out of the last 10 or whatever it is, so it was the start of a great period for Dublin football, and certainly our best period since that great team in the 70s that you played on.
You know, the team today is an extraordinary team. I mean, they're so. I mean, the game has changed so much. I mean, it's just a different game, and it's so professional, and they'll be hard to beat, you know. And any team that beats them will deserve to beat them. Yeah,
well, look, thanks very much, Dad. We'll leave it at that. And as you say, any team that that beats the current team this year will probably go on to win All Ireland. Will be deserving champions, but hopefully the Dubs can hold on to it for another year. Thanks, Dad.